welcome to the channel. Welcome to Banter in the Box. Mo's not big in Japan. It's your Game Week 14 review. This week's edition of Banter in the Box, we've got your Game Week 14 winners and losers. 5 winners this week, all picking up a Manager of the Season point, and 4 losers, all losing a Manager of the Season point. We've got your normal player review. Quote of the week is back, which warms my heart. And in a new segment, Fouled Saboteur of the Week. And we've got the FFFL Cup review. Match day 4 last weekend. I'll be revealing the results of those games for the first time as the race to reach the knockout stages of the Family Fantasy Football League Cup really starts to hot up with just one game week left of the group stage of the competition in the first weekend in Jan. So let's look at how those groups are shaking up ahead of those 5 group games and a Manager of the Season update. In a week, been quiet on the transfer front in the last 2 weeks, but in a week where 3 managers went into the transfer market, one of them paying £5 million on an Oi is Mine tactical gambit. There was nearly 4 transfers this week, but one manager changed his mind at the last minute. More on that later. So your Game Week 14 winners, take a bow. Clockhouse Rangers manager, great Uncle George Moody. Yes, you heard me right. I haven't put him on the wrong slide. George is a Game Week winner in Game Week 14. He climbed 2 places up to 17th. And that's the highest George has been since Game Week 9. Take a bow also, Norfolk and Chance FC manager Angela Addis. She climbed a place to the heady heights of 14th in the league. Angela hasn't been that high since Game Week 9. And there's a theme here. Take a bow, the Willow Tree winners, Joe Hoxby. These 3 are used to being Game Week losers, but Joe was a Game Week 14 winner. She climbed 2 places up to 18th. Joe hasn't been as high as 18th since back in Game Week 8. Take a bow also, Rayleigh Rovers manager Simon Hoxby. He climbed a place up to 2nd in the table. Simon hasn't been as high as 2nd in the table since Game Week 8. But your biggest Game Week 14 winner, take a bow, Legends 23 manager Keith Simons. Been quietly climbing the table consistently all season long after a terrible start. He climbed another place this week up to 8th with a 3rd weekly win, scoring 74 points, and that is a season high for Keith Simons. 1 Manager of the Season point to those 5. Your Game Week 14 losers, hang your head in shame, Mops Hoxby. I've got a life, falling 1 place down to 19th. Mops hasn't been as low as 2nd from bottom since Game Week 8. Hide your head in shame. The big Boster Cogless manager, Niall Ponsford, fell 1 place to 3rd. You have to go back to Game Week 7 for the last time Niall was as low as 3rd in the table. Hang your head in shame. The Musketeers manager, Sarah Goodwin, fell another place down to 9th. Sarah's not been as low as 9th since Game Week 3, and that's the 2nd week running Niall and Sarah have been Game Week losers. But the biggest Game Week 14 loser, oh dear, Steve Maloney's Ostrich Bar Stewards fell 3 places down to 20th. Bottom of the table, the lowest scorers in Game Week 14 with just 4 points. Biggest fallers this week, down 3 places. You have to go back to the 1st of June 2024 for the last time Steve Maloney was as low as 20th in the league. I suppose the good news, Steve, you can't go any lower now that there's only 20 teams in the Family Fantasy Football League. So those 4 all losing a Manager of the Season point. Now your player review, here are the top goalkeepers in the competition. Good week for Vicario of Tottenham. 1 manager has him. A good week for Donnarumma as well. 10 points for Donnarumma. 1 manager has him. Good weeks for Raya, the highest scoring goalkeeper in the competition, which is why half the people in the league have him. And Sanchez of Chelsea had a good week as well. Second highest scorer in the competition. 4 managers have him. There are still some goalkeepers, if you're in the market for a goalkeeper, that are available without spending £5 million on an Always Mind Tactical Gambit. Martinez of Villa, not a bad price at 8 million, the eighth best keeper in the league, and it is top money for Ross and Petrovic of Sunderland and Bournemouth, respectively, but they are still available for selection. Your top defenders: Lacroix has emerged as the highest scoring defender in the competition. Just one manager has him. Munoz is still available. He's had a bad week, but he is still available, although it is a top price, £15 million. A good week for Mark Gay, top scoring defender in game week 14. And he is the third highest scorer in the competition. One manager has him. Good week also for Van der Ven of Spurs. 3 managers have got him, and he's only £5 million, the fifth highest scoring defender in the league. £5 million, that's a bargain. Good week also for James of Chelsea. Only one manager got him, and he's only £6 million. That is a bargain as well. Now, these are your top scoring midfielders that haven't been selected yet by another Family Fantasy Football League manager. The top 10 midfielders in the competition are already belonging to another Family Fantasy Football League side. But there are some bargains to be had. Good weeks for Zubamendi of Arsenal. He is expensive at 19 million. Good week for Pino of Palace, although again is very, very expensive at a top price for a midfielder, 21 million. A good week for Martinelli of Arsenal as well. That's a bit more reasonable. 8 million, bit of a bargain. He's had a good week. So there are some bargains to be had. Gonzalez of Man City is the 10th highest scoring midfielder in the competition, and he's only £3 million. And as I say, all these are still available for transfer. So there are players around for sure. And your top scoring strikers: Haaland way out in front as the highest scoring player in the competition, which is why half the Family Fantasy Football League managers have him in their sides. Good week for Ekitike of Liverpool, who's the 8th best striker in the competition and is still available, although a premium £25 million. We've still got the bargain Welbeck available for transfer, only 15 million. And Watkins is still available for transfer, although an expensive 24 million. Thiago is continues to have a great season. Not a brilliant week, but he's still the joint third highest scoring in terms of point scoring, joint third striker in the competition, and only £2 million. And Richarlison's a good punt. Only one manager's got him, but he's a bargain, £6 million as well, the fifth highest scoring striker. So that's your player review. Now, quote of the week. It's been quiet, banter-wise. Not been much going on for a few weeks, which has been disappointing. But I got this transfer request, and it made me smile. Konnichiwa, Jeffrey. I may be in a beer hall in Sapporo, Japan, but winning the FFL takes precedent. Please could I throw Salah under the bus and bring in Foden? Well, number of things I like about this transfer made by the big Bostocoglis manager Niall Ponsford, pictured there out in Sapporo, Japan. One is that a holiday in Japan, which, let's face it, is a big deal, still doesn't take precedent over winning the Family Fantasy Football League Cup. Love that. And also, great reference on point with Salah's recent interview where he said that he felt Liverpool had thrown him under the bus. Niall Ponsford keeping his fingers on the pulse and throwing Salah well and truly under the bus, getting him out and bringing in Phil Foden, albeit needing to spend £5 million on an Oity's Mind tactical gambit to do so, because Foden has already been selected by another manager. But I thought it was a great transfer in terms of the way it was delivered. It's a great transfer anyway, for that matter. And one manager of the season point to you, Niall. Enjoy the rest of your holiday in Japan, but absolutely keep your eye on that table, because you've just dropped a place, buddy. Fouled saboteur of the week. Now, these are arguably the best two managers in the league this season. Uh, Defending champion Greece Lightning, a three times winner, not having a great season by his standards in fifth. And the Creed Bratton Society, who has won the title once, been runner up a couple of times, the current FFFL Cup holder. Arguably the top two managers in the Family Fantasy Football League this week. And last season, in the closest title race in Family Fantasy Football League history, and will probably never ever be repeated. You may recall that Greece Lightning and the Creed Bratton Society finished not only level on points at the end of the season, which is amazing when you think about the winners of the league get over 2,000 points generally. To finish level on points when there's that many points available is incredible. But they also finished on the same number of weekly wins, which meant Greece Lightning won the Family Fantasy Football League title last season by virtue of goals scored. That's how close it was. Doubt it will ever be repeated. So, these two set the benchmark for themselves against each other. They see themselves, I think, as the biggest threats to each other, the top two managers in the Family Fantasy Football League. But this week, the Mad Hatter resorted to underhand tactics the like of which have never been seen in the Family Fantasy Football League before. Greece Lightning manager Alexi Lagos made a transfer this week. He decided to transfer out a player, I can't remember who the player he was transferring out was, and bring in Embuemo of Manchester United. Then I got a message before the noon deadline on the Friday that Greece Lightning didn't want to make that transfer after all. He removed it, which is fine. Shortly after I got the message from Alexi telling me he no longer wanted to proceed with that transfer, I got this message from the Mad Hatter. Alexi wanted me to tell you he would love to continue with his valid transfer of Embuemo in, despite any doubts he may have aired after submitting that transfer. He's a bit tired. He's a bit tied up, so asked me to forward the message. Well, I can tell you that that is an absolute fake news on the part of the Mad Hatter. Alexi wasn't tied up and hadn't asked the Mad Hatter to message me telling me to reinstate the transfer that Alexi had rescinded. And well, I'm my flabbergasted. I don't know what to say really. I've never experienced this in 31 years of the Family Fantasy Football League. Another manager would try to sabotage a fellow Family Fantasy Football League manager in such a way. These two are supposed to be friends. It was absolutely shocking, but I admired the audacity enough to give the Mad Hatter a manager of the season point just for trying. So well done, buddy. Now, last weekend was match day 4 of the Family Fantasy Football League Cup. And there were some surprise results that really shook up some of the tables. Here is how Group 1 looks at the end of match day 4 with Masters of None beating No Happy Endings. That means with a game to go, No Happy Endings are out of the competition. They now 6 points away from qualifying for the playoff places. They cannot possibly achieve that. So Di Maloney is out. And Chairman's Choice, as I think I predicted, beat the Creed Bratton Society, thrashed the Creed Bratton Society 48-30. Now that means that as things stand, the Creed Bratton Society can do no more They've played all of their 4 group matches, and as it stands, they are just outside the qualification for the knockout phase of the competition. However, their goal difference is -3. Masters of None, who have 1 game to play, are -2. Edie's 11, who have 1 game to play, are +8. And Chairman's Choice, who have 1 game to play, are +24. But all 4 of those sides are on 6 points. Now, no happy endings go up against Edie's 11 in the final game. No happy endings with nothing to play for. Edie's 11, if they win that, could, depending on margins of victory, could win the group. Masters of None, going up against Chairman's Choice, could also win the group if Masters of None can beat Chairman's Choice by a bigger margin than Edie's 11 win by, a much bigger margin than Edie's 11 win by. Masters of None could win the group. Chairman's Choice, if they beat Masters of None, could win the group, depending on the margin of victory. If they are victorious, the Edie's 11 get over no happy endings. And looking at all of those 2 games will be the Creed Bratton Society, hoping that either Chairman's Choice beat Masters of None by at least 2 points. If that happens, then the Creed Bratton Society will rise up to 3rd in the league, and that will be enough to get them into the knockout stages of the preliminary of the qualification round. Or if if Masters of None don't lose to Chairman's Choice, then the Creed Bratton Society will have to hope that either Masters of None thrash Chairman's Choice by a margin of 28 points, or no happy endings thrash Edie's 11 by a margin of 12 points. But if, for example, Chairman's Choice only beat Masters of None by, if Chairman's Choice draw with Masters of None and Edie's 11 don't lose to no happy endings, then the Creed Bratton Society, the cup holders, will be eliminated. So there is still lots to play for in Group 1. Group 2 saw I've Got a Life get absolutely thrashed by Grease Lightning, and Error 404 just beat Anders FC to ruin Anders FC's 100% record. Now, Error 404 have played all of their games. I'm just trying to work this out in my head. They've played all of their games, so there's nothing more they can do. At the moment, they're in those qualification places for the knockout phase. The problem for Error 404 is that I've Got a Life and Benny United go head to head in the final group game. The arch rivals going up against one another. As it stands, they're both out of the competition. If they draw with one another, then they will both be eliminated. If Benny United win, then Error 404 is out, because Benny United's goal difference already is better than Error 404's. What Error 404 need is an I've Got a Life victory, but not a big victory, but an I've Got a Life victory over Benny United, unless it's a huge win, because at the moment I've Got a Life's goal difference is -31. So to overtake Error 404, they would have to win by 20. They would have to beat Benny United by 22 points, at least 22 points, to overtake Error 404. So that's what I've Got a Life need to do. They need a huge victory over Benny United, and given I've Got a Life's position in the league, that's kind of unlikely. The other possibility for Error 404, regardless of what happens with Benny United and I've Got a Life, is if Grease Lightning beat Anders FC by 19 points, then Error 404 would go above Anders FC on goal difference and therefore still qualify. As far as Grease Lightning and Anders FC go, well, if they draw, they've both qualified, and Grease Lightning would go through in that scenario as group winners straight through to the quarterfinals, and Anders FC would go into the qualification phase. But if Anders FC could win, then they would top the group. Grease Lightning would go into the qualification phase. All 5 teams technically still with a chance of qualifying. Group 3 saw Gobi Desert Canoe Club beat the Ostrich Bar Stewards, which moved Gobi Desert Canoe Club up into the qualification places. And Legends 23 made hard work of it, but the Willow Tree winners were already out of the competition. They lost their final group game to Legends 23 by just 3 points, but that was enough to see Legends 23 maintain their 100% record. Ostrich Bar Stewards, the Willow Tree winners are out. Ostrich Bar Stewards still have a chance of qualifying. They need to beat Legends 23 by a pretty good margin and hope that the outcome of the Musketeers versus Gobi Desert Canoe Club is a big win for either one of those sides. That will see Ostrich Bar Stewards jump into the qualification places. Legends 23 have probably won the group. They can make absolutely certain of it by getting a point against, at least a point against the Ostrich Bar Stewards. That will see them go straight into the quarterfinals. Gobi Desert Canoe Club and the Musketeers, an outside chance for either of these two sides to still win the group. They would need Legends 23 to take a heavy defeat to the Ostrich Bar Stewards, which seems unlikely. If Gobi Desert Canoe Club and the Musketeers draw, they will both go into the qualification stages in the knockout phase. Either one of them win, and they're guaranteed to go into the knockout stages. And even if the Musketeers or Gobi Desert Canoe lose, as long as Ostrich Bar Stewards don't win, then they're through to the qualification phases. And in Group 4, well, Rayleigh Rovers and the Big Bostocoglers, who had 100% records before match day 4. Rayleigh Rovers won, and won convincingly as well, 46-23. So they top the group with 100% record. Norfolk and Chance FC kept their slim hopes of qualification alive, beating Clockhouse Rangers 31-22. Clockhouse Rangers were already eliminated, and like Willow Tree winners, finish their FFFL group phase bottom of their group with 0 points. Now, the Norfolk and Chance FC go up against the Big Bostocoglers. The problem for Norfolk and Chance FC is the points difference. They've suffered some big defeats in this group stage. They need a big win against the Big Bostocoglers. Their goal difference is minus 29. The Big Bostocoglers is plus 21. So they need to win that game by 24, 25 points, roughly. That math might not quite be right. Around 24, 25 points would see Norfolk and Chance leapfrog Big Bostocoglers. But unless they get a small margin win, won't be enough. They need a big win against the Big Bostocoglers. Rayleigh Rovers need to get a point against Dimmy's Dynamos to top the group and go straight through to the quarterfinals. Dimmy's Dynamos can still win the group if they can beat Rayleigh Rovers by enough. Their goal difference is plus 36. Rayleigh Rovers is plus 55. So Dimmy's Dynamos need a fairly big win, 15 points roughly, to topple Rayleigh Rovers from the top of Group 4. Unlikely Dimmy's Dynamos won't qualify for the knockout phase. They would have to be in fact, no, there isn't a scenario where they can't qualify, because even if they take a really heavy defeat, their goal difference is going to be better than the Big Bostocoglers even if and going to be better than North fucking Chance FC. It would take a miracle set of results for Dimmy's Dynamos not to qualify for the knockout phases. Now, who the fuck is that? Oh, by the way, I should say those match day 5 of the Family Fantasy Football League Cup, the first full Premier League fixture weekend in January. Who the fuck is that? You're obviously bored. Nobody had a guess this week. One person had a guess, even if it was wrong, they would have got a manager of the season point. Nobody had a guess this week. So the manager of the season table looks like this. Top half anyway. Mops Hoxby climbing to Mops Hoxby falling to joint 10th for being a game week 14 loser. Joe Hoxby climbing to joint 10th for being a game week 14 winner. Jordan Williams for being the saboteur of the week climbs to joint 8th. Simon Hoxby remains 7th for being a game week 14 winner. Sarah Goodwin dropping to joint 2nd for being a game week 14 loser. Niall Ponsford stayed 6th, got 1 point for the quote of the week, but lost a point for being a game week 14 loser. So Megan Hoxby saw her lead at the top of the manager of the season table increase to 3 points. And this week, we're rolling it over, obviously. Let's hope somebody has a go this week. It's worth 4 manager of the season points if you can tell me which current Family Fantasy Football League manager is pictured there. And I will give you a bonus point if you can tell me the body part. That is your banter in the box for this week. Glad the quotes coming into me have started. Glad the sabotaging of other Family Fantasy Football League managers has started. Let's keep that banter coming during the festive period, please. Until next time, take care. Bye-bye.